up, everybody? I got your little thing out there. I got to get it off there. To see the Metalcore nerds thing. I love that, actually. It looks cool. I was going to post it when you talk, but I don't know, dude. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm back, baby. Summer is over. It is fall. I'm going to get back into the swing of things on this podcast. Thank you for joining in. It is EC Radio. You can follow along on all Disruption Network social media platforms, and it's wrapped up into a nice little podcast that you can listen to at your leisure, at your discretion, at disruptionnetwork.net. Before we get into anything, much love to my sponsors, Upgrade Brain Formula. This right here, magic in a bottle, people. This will help wake up your brain receptors. You know what you do? You know what I do? Let me tell you what I do. I get up in the morning. As soon as I put both feet on the ground, I take a sip of this. I just down it, and it helps me get throughout my day. I go do my little workout, then I go to work, and then I come here and do the podcast, and I'm all full of energy, and that's because of Upgrade Brain Formula. You go to freemanformula.com, use promo code DISRUPTION, and get yourself a 15% discount. Shout out to EJA Moving Services, the professional movers. When you're ready to move and relocate, hit up Eddie and his staff at 315-335-0516. Thank you to Joey's. Joey's at 307. Great food. Go check them out. Call for a reservation. Actually, this week they're on vacation. So next week, you could go check out Joey's and say hello to the Grabsky family for me. Another reason why I'm always jacked up, it's Utica coffee. And today I'm drinking the Adirondack Roast. I'm back on coffee. I'm back behind the podcast booth. I'm back in action, baby. It is time. It is the year of the D, baby. My D. Sticking out at you. Shout out to Saranac Brewery, and also big ups to Dave Longaretta, my attorney, who's been keeping me out of trouble since the early 90s. So, Dave, thank you so much for all that you do. Metalcore nerds, and I don't know how to get that off the thing. It looks cool, right?
Yeah, it works.
Sean Mott from Metalcore Nerds joining me today, and there it goes. Okay, I got it. Sometimes I know what I'm doing, and sometimes I don't. But Sean Mott joining me today. Sean, I'm glad we can do this because I feel like you and I could probably talk for the next 10 hours.
Probably, yeah. That's usually how it goes. You know?
I really like what you're doing, bro.
Thank you.
See, what I tell podcasters all the time is like, take something you're really passionate about and roll it all into a bundle and deliver a podcast. And that's exactly what you're doing, my friend.
That was the goal. That was the goal, you know. The pandemic happened. I used to be a booking agent, not anymore, but I'm also a graphic designer. Everything was laced in music. And, of course, when the pandemic happened, all of that went away.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of time on my hands, and my wife, started streaming because she's a manager at Hot Topic. So obviously she wasn't working either. And I was like, maybe I should start a podcast. I was a big fan of podcasts, kind of overly obsessed with them, still am, you know, now that I do one too. And I was like, yeah, what if I just combine the two things I love, music and pop culture? So I just bring on people from the music world and we talk about pop culture, kind of give bands, which it's turned into now, which has been amazing, is I've been able to link up with a lot of PR people, and they kind of put me like, oh, hey, this band, they're putting something out, going on tour, putting out a record, whatever. They like these things, and then we work out what we can like. It's usually something very relevant to what's going on, and they get to talk about something that's not just a normal interview that they do all the time, and they get to talk about things they love, and while still promoting the stuff they still have going on. So it's been really cool to do that kind of stuff and find out new information about people that I've like listened to their music for forever and stuff like that. And so it's been awesome.
That's cool. You could take your contacts from the music world and bring them over to your podcast.
Yeah.
And I saw like you've had like Veil of Maya on before, and like Fit for a King, and you like a lot of the metal type bands, metalcore, the gent bands, as I like to call them. Right?
Yeah.
They're out there. Veil of Maya played at the roller skating rink at one point, didn't they?
Probably. That was like I grew up in Watertown, so I never saw Skaterama stuff, which everyone's kind of like, whoa, what? And I was like, I lived an hour away. I didn't know what any of this was.
Right.
You know?
Skaterama like had all these great, like I know Day of the New. Why am I forgetting these names? But there's so many 3 band names nowadays, right? Fit for a King, and you know, I can't remember, but there's been some big names that came through Skaterama, and I'm pretty sure Veil of Maya was one of them.
That would make sense, honestly. Yeah, they're a very different band than they were then, but still, that would make a lot of sense that they played back then. That would line up. I know like Amir, Acacia Strain, CDC. I think Stick to Your Guns played there back in the day, probably.
Right. So you're the agent side of things, huh?
Yeah, for a few years, like 4 or 5 years.
Did it make you feel dirty?
No, it just made you realize how much work you put in and no one gives a fuck.
Right, totally. Dude, keep going with that. Please expand on that, because people don't really understand the back end of the music business.
Yeah, it's a lot of it can be bands, because most of the time you deal with managers, and you're kind of, the managers are like the middleman between the agent and the bands, or sometimes you deal directly with the bands depending on the level of the band. And just so many people think that they're friends with certain people, especially if like a band's a friend with a band, that'll get them tours and that'll get them this. And 9 times out of 10, no, that's not how it works, because even the bands that you think have all this control, they don't, because they have a massive team behind them and they have to, you know, pay off favors or do something to get a favor down the road and everything like that. And you really just grind of like hitting people up, staying in contact with all the different managers, these agents, to get new bands, get bigger bands, get in with another agent and all this stuff. And you're just like grinding so hard with very minimal payoff. Mm-hmm. And when you think you have a victory, something just takes and slaps out of your face. And I am stoked I'm not a part of it. I contribute to the music industry in a completely different way, a way that is way more appreciated and less stressful, and pays me a hell of a lot more money than a booking agent did. And even like the podcast, I don't make money off it right now, kind of getting there, trying to get there. But even that's like a way more, people seem so much more stoked on that than, you know, they're like, oh, you're an agent, you know. So people like, that must be so cool. And it had its perks and everything like that.
It's a tough job though.
Yeah, it's a very thankless job. I still have a ton of friends who are doing insanely well being an agent, and good for them, because they're killing it.
And you have to learn to accept the word no when you're an agent.
All the time.
And like hang-ups, and get ready to get in arguments, and you're going to make deals, and you got to deal with the shadiest of shady. It really, right? I mean, you're dealing with promoters and the agents. I mean, kind of around the same aspect. There's a great thing on Instagram, agent versus promoters. Do you follow that group?
Oh, it's the best.
It's the best.
Kind of very accurate, too. Scaringly accurate most of the time.
It cracks me up daily watching that Instagram page. But really, you have to deal with a lot of bullshit. And like you said in the beginning of your statement, not only on the bands, because a lot of bands think they know their shit and whatever. And you got to kind of be like a psychiatrist as well.
Yep.
You know, because you got to like, hey, listen, guys, reality is this, you know. But then you're dealing with the promoters and the bar owners who are trying to save a buck any way they can.
Oh, yeah.
So it's tough, man. It's hard to navigate through a lot of that. It takes a special breed to be a booking agent, man.
Yeah, and I was that for a little bit. And then it was weird, because after I was in a band that did pretty well, and then after that ended, a bunch of my friends' bands were like, yo, can you help us, you know, tour and, you know, give us some advice? I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And I did that, and it just ended up snowballing. I started my own booking agency, and then I got picked up by another one, then another bigger one, then another bigger one. But then by the time the pandemic came back, I was just like, I can't do both of this anymore. Like, I taught myself After Effects during the pandemic to kind of, like, everyone started a Twitch, so I started doing Twitch stuff for people who were in bands, starting Twitches to make some money. And that helped me land the design job I have now, which is the most mind-blowing shit to me ever, because I've done work for ZZ Top and Dance Gavin Dance and Seether and stuff like that, which if you would have told me 10 years ago, I would have been like, you're insane. Like, I would never do it. It's like, that's what the one thing I say is like, that's my brag moment in design, because if I tell anyone I did something for ZZ Top, everyone knows who ZZ Top is.
Of course.
You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, I could be like, oh yeah, I did this thing for a dying fetus, and, you know, people are like, who's dying fetus? But if I go, ZZ Top, they're like, oh yeah, ZZ Top, that's crazy, you know. So that's been like that's been my thing, the barometer of anyone would get it.
It looks great on the resume.
Yeah,
it does. So what exactly are you doing? You're more on the graphic side of things now.
Yeah. I'm like on retainer for this management company called Shelter Music, and they have like a mix of things. Some of it's like a label, some of it's managing. I believe they're like the management and label for ZZ Top. I think I could be wrong, but they at least manage ZZ Top, and they manage like Dance Gavin Dance, and that stuff actually came. That relationship ended up coming from the booking side of stuff, because one of the two people who got absorbed by that company had their own standalone company. The guy who manages Dance Gavin Dance, Veil of Maya, Dying Fetus, Volumes, bands like that, ended up getting absorbed by this into this massive company, and then eventually one of the guys wanted to bring me on because I've done work for them and stuff. And before, I guess it ended up being like a tryout thing, but I did all of the promo advertising for Serge Tankian, the singer of System of a Down.
Yep.
He put out like a solo EP, and I did all the advertising stuff, just like the banners you see where it's like album out now, and like the video stuff you see on Instagram when you're twirling and they're like new song and stuff like that. I did like all of that stuff, which for me was cool. I could listen to System of a Down when I was like 12
awesome,
or something,
right,
you know?
seriously.
So I was like, he like asked me to do it, and I'm like, yeah, of course I'll do this. What do you mean? And then months later, he ended up giving me a call with his boss, and they're like, yeah, we want to bring you on. And I'm like, let's do it. You know?
Yeah. Is that a good pinch me moment for you?
Yeah, because I've been doing design since I went to school in 08, graduated in 2010, and did the 9 to 5 grind in sign shops and whatever for years. And then I eventually went off on my own when I was doing booking and design kind of at the same time. And that was the first time, this was the first time like actually getting something that like felt so concrete. I was like, man, I feel okay about like financially, I guess, because having a consistent number you're getting every month is such a different thing when you're like a freelancer, because it's like you get paid when you get the job done, and sometimes you get paid like a few weeks later or a month later or something like that. It can be real dicey and real frustrating sometimes, but having like an exact number and then adding on top of that makes it so much easier, in a very like, wow, I finally did the thing I've kind of been setting out to do for years at this point. So it definitely was like a big pinch me moment, especially when you get an email and like the first thing I did was like a ZZ Top thing. I was like, what? You're like, what?
Now,
What
you
do you
doing the
mean?
graphics for like their whole tour, or?
I did pretty much all of the promotion for their new album that came out.
Gotcha.
They did like a live album called Raw, and so anytime you saw like pre-order out now or something, that was something I made, or like a video that said new single out now, album out whatever date, and stuff. I did stuff like that. Like I did like their new one sheet and stuff, like, which is not really like an external thing people see. It's more for to show off their numbers to the right people and stuff like that.
Right,
But,
they go into trades or whatever.
yeah. So some of the stuff people don't even see, but I'm fine. I don't care.
Right.
I know
ZZ
I did
fucking
it.
Top, dude.
Yeah. I did enough of stuff for them that people did see on their Instagram. Like even the Spotify canvas, like when you click a song and there's that motion thing playing behind the song.
Yeah.
Like I did all of those for their new album and stuff. So that stuff was so cool.
That's gotta make you feel great, though, man. Especially
Yeah, it was
seeing out
amazing.
there, you're kind of scrolling through social media, and whatnot, and see your artwork out there, or your graphic that you've put together for that. It's gotta make you feel good.
Yeah, even Nothing More. They're like big on like K-Rock and stuff now.
It's so crazy. I was just listening to them.
Yeah, I do like all of their.
Are you tired of winning?
Yeah. Pretty much all their video stuff that you see of like tour recaps when they have all the graphics on top of them. I do like all of those for them.
Yeah.
Like all the pre-order image, like the dumb things that people don't think of that need to get made. Like when you go on their website and like look at all their images, like I set up all the images. You click on their website to order their stuff and stuff like that. Their manager is awesome. He's the man.
They've been out for a while too, right?
Yeah.
Weren't they hitting the clubs in like California and whatnot before?
Yeah, I didn't realize how long they've been a band, but they've been a band for a really long time. But now they're just like really popping off.
They were road warriors for a while, especially out on the West Coast. And then they had the Jenny song, or one of them songs came out, and then really blew them out. I remember seeing them at K-Rockathon a bunch of years ago too, and they like opened up my eyes. I was like, this band kicks ass.
Yeah, even me like editing their stuff, I'm like, yo, this stuff's pretty sick.
Yeah.
And like seeing like some, obviously like I'm like messing with their live photos or like live video stuff, and I'm like, yo, it looks like these guys put on a dope show.
Yeah.
They're playing around here like next week. Not like around here, it's like 3 hours away, but I probably won't go.
Yeah, well, you're a music guy, dude. So around here is 3 hours away, type of thing. Like, because you're one to travel for a show, right?
Yeah, I mean, all the time. Like, I'll go to, Sam and I go to Massachusetts a lot.
Yeah.
And that's like 3 hours.
Right.
We're going to Massachusetts next week to see Stick to Your Guns at the Palladium and stuff like that. So,
What's the furthest you guys traveled for a show?
I mean, the furthest easy. We flew out to LA for the Ghost Inside comeback show. When they came back, they had that huge bus accident that all of them almost died. Like the drummer lost half their leg, and he learned to drum with like a prosthetic thing that his dad made for him and stuff. And we saw their first show back. It was at the Shrine in LA, which was supposed to be inside, but they sold so many tickets they moved it to the outside because that's how fast they sold tickets.
Wow.
And seeing them come back was super emotional. Like I played with them in my old bands at like the Lost Horizon and stuff, and so I think that's the furthest we've traveled for a show is to go see that. We've also went to like fests in like Texas and stuff. We've been to So What Fest a few times. So I mean that's a plane ride, you know.
Yeah.
But we drive. I think the first we've driven is maybe like New Jersey or something.
Right on.
Which isn't even like that crazy, but
I want to back up a little bit and talk about like your come up. So you grew up in Watertown. Like, where was that inspiration to get into music?
I ended up just going to this local show. There used to be this place called Velocity Fun Center, and up top it was like an arcade. They had laser tag, and they had this room that they started doing shows in across from this massive like blow up obstacle course. And then one time, I don't even know why. Like,
what a fun place it sounds like.
It was so dope, honestly.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
And one time, I just went to this local like metal show, and after that, I was like, "Yo, I need to get more into this." And then they ended up doing a venue in like the basement, and they called it the Dungeon. And I saw like Four Year Strong play there when Four Year Strong was like nobody. Like their first album just came out. I found them on like Pure Volume with one of my friends. When Pure, like if anyone remembers Pure Volume, and like MySpace and all that shit that no one remembers except for people like, you know, our age or around that age and stuff like that. And so I just started going to shows there, and I was like, I wonder what I can do to get involved in this kind of stuff. So I would ask to like help pass out flyers or like carry around amps and stuff. And then I eventually started making really terrible flyers and paint. Like so bad, honestly. And that's what made me want to get in design. And then I ended up like starting booking shows myself with friends I met, and it kind of just all snowballed from there. And then out of college playing in bands and doing a little bit of both. Like that's funny enough. We talked about Aaron Lamb a little bit before we started recording, but me and him were booking shows like my second year of college in Watertown together. And that's like how I paid for anything I did in college. Was money I made off of shows, basically. Like we booked like Big D and the Kids Table and a bunch of random stuff. But yeah, it was just kind of like I only needed to see it once live, and I fell in love with it, and then it just kept going.
Life-changing moment.
Yeah, honestly, yes. And it's like people are like, oh yeah, what was your first show? And I was like, I don't even remember who played it. It was just like it was a bunch of local metal bands.
Was it Caustic?
I don't think Caustic. It was that other band that was, I can't remember their name, but I think they either some of the members joined Caustic or something like that. There was like big switch over, but they were around the same time as Caustic.
Gotcha.
Definitely. They
Caustic's
played
still around.
Yeah, which is nuts.
Matt's still doing his thing, bro.
Dude, they were a band when I was like 16, 15, 16.
I know.
Like 17 years ago.
That's what I love about Matt, and he's never really changed his direction.
Crazy.
It's always been, he's been metal to the bone since day one, man. That's what I love about that.
I can't remember the name of the band. It's going to bug me too. Man.
There was some good
He
bands
would know.
up there, though. Yeah,
he would know. It was like after If Hope Dies, which If Hope Dies was like a Syracuse Auburn band, but they were like, they wanted to be If Hope Dies, I think. They were like that kind of metal band. They were pretty good too, but I can't remember their name. Caustic might have played that show, honestly. It
they ruled Watertown. I feel like they were always on a bill in Watertown.
We kind of took over from them, I think, because there was like the.
Now, what band were you in?
There was like that metal scene, and then there was like everything else.
Yeah.
At one point, I played in this band called Atlas for a while. We were this like super weird hardcore band, and it was all Watertown dudes. And we kind of brought in people. There was this band Still Rings True that was like kind of like a pop punk band that we played with all the time, and we kind of just like took over and started doing shows ourselves. We all had practice spaces in the bottom of this same venue and stuff like that. Caustic probably had a practice spot there at one time too. Everyone did back in the day. And we just found like a bunch of our friends' bands. We could bring in bands from out of town. Like if you ever heard of the band State Champs, they're like massive now.
Course, yeah.
I booked them a million. We like Atlas and State Champs did our first weekend together, like out of town weekend. It was with each other. And
the State Champs are local?
They're from Albany.
Are they really?
Yeah.
I never knew that.
Yeah. It was like when I first started dating Sam, I didn't know that State Champs were as big as they were. And I walked into a Hot Topic and they were playing, and I was like, this is weird. And she's like, why? And I was like, I know I played like VFW halls to like 50 people with them. Like, that's why this is weird to me. And, you know, then the next time we saw him was at a fest in Texas playing in front of thousands of people and stuff like that. So I was like,
did it bring a tear to your eye? Were you overwhelmed by that moment?
Overwhelmed, yeah, for sure. But it's cool. It's so dope.
Yeah.
Like even like Knocked Loose, my band Ghost Ship, our last weekend of shows before our very last show, they played it with us. And at that point, I was like, you guys are going to be massive. And they're like, no. And I'm like, yeah, you are. And then look at them now. They're like one of the biggest bands in like metalcore. Like they're like the band. So it's funny to see that kind of stuff, to see bands go from literally nothing to like the band, you know. So it's wild, but it's cool. I love seeing that stuff. I'm never one to be like jealous of other people's success.
That's because you're not from Utica. I had to throw that in there.
That's funny.
It's true, but
anyway. I like to see people succeed. You know what I mean?
Same.
Like when people succeed, they usually bring up people with them. And you know, even though I have friends who do podcasts and they're like, "Oh, yo, we did this thing," and I'm like, "Fuck yeah, man! Like that's awesome. Like, why wouldn't I want you to see that do that stuff? Like, I don't know. It's so weird to see people and be like, "Man, why did they get that?" You know, it's like just work harder. I don't know. Some people do get lucky, and it is a very if you know the certain people, you get certain things. That comes in any industry there is.
Totally.
But, you know, if you put in the work and you love what you do, usually it rises to the top.
Exactly. That's what I love watching, like, these bands grow, you know, in putting the work in. Because, I mean, you're not going to get successful until you put the work in. It's the 10,000-hour theme or whatever. And that's kind of a true statement. But watching these bands grow and, like, playing little VFW halls and moving to clubs and then maybe theaters and then on the big stage at festivals and shit, it's amazing. I always compare the jam bands with the metal scene because there's so many similarities. The only difference between not only the music, of course, though some of the jam bands are starting to get a little heavy, the only difference is the colors. Like in the metal, they're all wearing black, and then the hippies are wearing tie-dyes, you know? But no, the whole thing, the grassroots side of things is what I'm getting at. And both sides, both genres have that grassroots. And that's how you gain a following and a fan base and like people that love you and they will travel hours to come see you. And you get that from both genres. And it's a beautiful thing to see, man. I love seeing that shit.
Yeah, it comes with anything. Like you got to put the work in, or no one's gonna care. And then if you complain about other bands doing this, and it's like, dude, just put your head down and do the work. Like you said, that dealing with kind of being a therapist for bands, I had to deal with it all the time as an agent. Be like, yo, why did this band get this? And I'm like, why do you care?
Yeah,
just do your own thing. I was like, these are the things you're doing. These are cool, right? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, cool. Put your head down and keep doing it. Like things will come. You just have to grind and put the work in. Like that's how things go. Like I turned. I'd never booked like super huge bands or anything, but I did turn a good handful of bands into bands that were
you're a development agent,
literally local bands into bands that toured and played fests in front of like thousands of people and stuff like that. So it's like people saw me do that, and that's why they wanted me to work with them. But bands would come on and be like, I can't do that for everyone. It's not going to work for everyone, you know. But I will do my best to get you to that position. And I did love that kind of stuff because there was bands that did appreciate stuff. But when you see bands play those big shows or get on a tour that does super well and stuff like that, that does make you super proud. You're like, I helped do that. You
proud
know,
uncle.
like, you know, you're like, hell yeah. You know, it's like they did the work, but we did the work together. It's a nice collaborative effort. You know.
Sean, give me a scenario of a stupid scenario that a band has put you through. Give me a good one. I'm sure they've put you through the ringer.
There was one band. This is the worst scenario I've ever had. It was. I'm not going to name the band because they're still a band, and I appreciate the dudes, but I got them on a bigger tour, and it was like their first like big tour. A band that was blowing up. They were doing a headliner, got them on it, and then like a day before, they're like, "Oh, our van isn't working. Like we can't do the tour." And I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Why are you telling me this now? Why are you figuring this out now? Like, what is going on?" I even offered to pay for like a rental van for them to do the tour, and they would pay me back, and they still didn't do it. That was like probably the worst one. There was a couple other bands who fired me after me doing a lot of work for them. Those kind of sucked. There was one I got signed to a label, and they said we didn't do enough for them, and I was like, okay, sure. If you think that sucks, but whatever, you know, it is what it is. But the van one, that was the worst one. I was up till like 3 a.m.
So they just canceled the tour, said, I'm not going on tour.
Yeah, they just dropped off. Yeah.
After you put all that work into it.
They made the agent really happy.
Yeah, I'm sure.
He was so stoked.
And then you got to rekindle that relationship with the agent because of their fuck up, right?
Yep.
And I'm sure it's kind of a big deal, that guy.
Yeah, he had some bands.
Yeah.
Some big bands.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that was my first tour offer from him. Yeah. That one sucked.
Have you guys moved on since then with that agent?
Like as far as like our relationship.
Yeah, were you guys able to put it aside?
I mean, yeah, like I met with them when I went to LA and stuff like that, and we were cool. I did some design work for their agency too, which was really dope.
That's cool.
A few like last year or something.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I would say it's fine. I mean, I don't even work in that industry anymore, so I don't even think it really matters. But yeah, it was kind of after. Like, I mean, he gets it. He's dealt with bands that have done the same thing. You know, like bands do that stuff all the time. Like really dumb stuff.
Flakes.
Really, really dumb stuff.
Listen, this leads me to my next question. Give me the shittiest gig you've ever been on.
That ever played?
Ever played or been on or ever been a part of or just kind of a nightmare train wreck type of gig?
There's been a bunch. Playing in a hardcore band and going on tour can be an experience, that's for sure. I've played some empty rooms.
Yeah.
In my day. I can't think of one that's been like, there was one I played in West Virginia. Me and my friends in Concrete, we always talk about the story of how we hate West Virginia, and it's not even anything to do with West Virginia. It was just, we were driving through a snowstorm. It was terrible, white out, the worst. And when you're in a van and trailer, it's like 10 times more terrifying because there's so much less control you have than normal. And it was a super whiteout. We get to the show, we play. The show is obviously not good because it's during a whiteout, and then we had to drive out of a whiteout. So it was just like that, and it wasn't even really the show's fault. It wasn't even really West Virginia's fault. We always just go fuck West Virginia because that day it was a long day and it wasn't very gratifying because sometimes there's a show and it's like the day getting there, like whether it's traffic or you have some dumb van issue or something, and then you get there and the show is awesome and you're like, oh, thank God. Something to look forward to, something to like, yes, that was worth it. But when it's like super terrible and then you get there and then that sucks and then you have to go into more terrible, that's when it gets but I don't really remember anything that's been like super like the worst thing ever. I mean, I've had to deal with some shady promoters who won't pay you or dip out before you play, all that stuff that like everyone has dealt with, but nothing like too terrible that I would be like, man, that was the worst show I've ever played. Because even some of the shows where it's not that many people, you meet certain people that are super cool, whether it's in a band that played or someone who comes up and says something nice or buys a shirt or whatever. So usually there's some sort of redeeming quality in some of the shows. So I don't think there's been anyone that I've played where I'm like, that was an absolute the worst thing ever, you know?
Justin Parker saying Sean Mott is one of my favorite human beings, the most positive dude and true homie. And you're right about that.
I love that guy.
Justin?
I love Justin Parker, yeah.
That's a good man right there.
He's the man.
Did you guys go to, well, he worked 2 CW shows.
I didn't know him then. I met him because of Sam.
Okay.
Because they knew each other from back in the day. And then we kindled a friendship over music and wrestling.
Gotcha.
And we used to watch every AEW pay-per-view together. We broke our streak this past weekend. He has a kid now. He's busy. He's a busy guy.
Yeah.
So it's understandable, but I love that guy. He's awesome.
Big weekend in AEW.
Yeah.
I'm sure the boys on Wrestle Fandom will talk about it tomorrow.
Mostly behind the scenes rather than in front of the scenes.
Oh, wait, what's going on behind the scenes? See, I like all that shit better.
So they do big media scrums after the big pay-per-views, and they like live stream them, and you know everyone watches them after. It's become like a obviously massive thing. All the wrestling podcasts cover him and everything. And CM Punk was the first one up. He just won the title back, and he kind of went off about his drama with this dude Cole Cabana, who he used to be really close friends with. Then he kind of
too.
Yeah, and then he shot off on like the Young Bucks without saying the Young Bucks name, but obviously meaning the Young Bucks, and Hangman Page he mentioned by name, and I guess it led to like a backstage altercation, like a physical altercation.
Oh wow.
Yeah, where he like threw punches at them, and then his friend and trainer, who's also a producer at AEW, threw a chair at one of them and bit Kenny Omega, I guess.
Wow.
And
That's
I don't really
drama.
Yeah, drama is kind of putting it lightly, and I don't really know what's going to happen because there was another backstage altercation with Eddie Kingston a few weeks ago, and he got suspended. But it's like, how do you suspend your champion?
Mm-hmm.
And
you're paying him millions.
Oh, and he's making millions for you. So what do you do about that? What do you do about the producer that's his close friend? If you fire him, do you ruin that thing there? And then you have the Young Bucks who's literally started this company and Kenny Omega. And it's like, what do you do with them? Do you suspend them? Do you fire them for kind of confronting him in an aggressive way when they're supposed to be, executives of this company? It's messy. And my friends have been asking me about it. I was like, I'm just waiting to see how it plays out. I don't know what's going to happen. I obviously don't run a wrestling company. I don't really know what the right thing to do would be. There needs to be something done to kind of get the backstage under control, I guess. I don't really know. But again, I don't run a wrestling company.
Is CM Punk a drama queen? I feel like he's such a hothead.
I will say I'm a big CM Punk fan.
Yeah.
He's the one who got me back into wrestling like a decade ago.
Yeah, I hear you.
Straight edge wrestler.
Huh?
I was like, oh, straight edge wrestler? That's super cool. But what he said in the media scrum, I watched it like the next day, and I was like, I probably wouldn't have said things like that on like a live mic and camera, probably, because it's pretty brutal. So that, and even like Tony, the owner of AEW, because he was sitting right next to him during the scrum and everything, and it's like, I probably would have kind of tried to like cut it off or something.
Shut him up.
I don't know, but again, it's like in his position, he's probably like, this is my big ticket guy. This dude has made me literally millions of dollars in the past year that he's been here. What do I do here? You know, but he is also the owner of the company. Kind of needs to put your foot down and kind of, you know,
take reins.
I am the one who signs your checks. You know, so it's rough. It's a really tough position. I don't know what I would do, and I definitely don't envy Tony Khan but Tony Khan's also known for saying some stuff that you probably shouldn't say on the internet too. So I don't know. Well, it's interesting to see how Wednesday goes. I'll definitely be watching that and seeing
drama. And that's Wednesday's in Buffalo, right? You said?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's good they're coming upstate. I know there was a show in Rochester recently, and now one in Buffalo, maybe.
And then Albany.
And then one in Albany.
They're doing Buffalo and then Albany the next week, which I'm not going to either, which is kind of a bummer, but
think they'll ever come to the U? They gotta make it happen here. How's the attendance for like WWE and when they come to the odd? Do you know?
I don't go because I've been to a few house shows in Syracuse and they're kind of just lame.
Are they?
I've been to Raw once and that was really cool, but they're not the same. It's like if you compare a house show to like Raw or a house show to like AEW doesn't even have house shows. You know, they're all TV events. You know,
cool. I didn't know that
because they do it one or two ways. That they'll film they have like a couple things they do on YouTube. And they'll film that before the main card. Then you watch your like live on TV for Wednesday. And sometimes they'll film the TV for the Friday, which is called Rampage. Or sometimes they'll do that live. They've been trying to do it live more to bring more importance to it. But usually it'll be like that. It'll be like the dark matches, which go on YouTube, then live on TV, and then they go off air and they do the hour of Rampage, and then you go home. So you definitely get and the tickets are pretty cheap too. You can get like pretty cheap tickets, like after fees, it's like $40,
really? And
they seem like they're far away, but you get there and you're like, oh, it's not that bad. When you go to like WWE, it's like tickets are like expensive, so it's very expensive. I paid a lot of money for Raw tickets, but we got like really good tickets too. So yeah, I think they do well in the odd. They keep coming back, so I would imagine they do. Good point. They do decent. Mm-hmm. The place they do it in Syracuse is just like way too big. They do it at the War
Memorial.
Yeah, it's just massive, so huge. It's like I feel like they could do like a Raw there. You know what I mean?
They have.
Yeah, like back in the day, right?
They did a pay-per-view there too. They did it in your house. I want to say the very first in your house was at the War Memorial, and it was like 95 or 96, somewhere around then.
Damn, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, that is cool. And Albany always does like a Raw here and there.
That's where I went to Raw. Yeah. That's where I went years ago. I mean, like the Shield was a thing. That's how long ago it was. So yeah, but that's where I went. I was in Albany. The same place. Is it the same place AEW's doing it? Maybe, I don't know. I've been to NXT in Albany a couple times too. Which those are house shows, but those were way more fun back when it was like peak NXT. I don't think they do those anymore. I don't think they do traveling shows anymore. At least not that I know of, but.
And also, Albany was the home of where Austin sprayed everybody with milk.
Oh,
do you remember that episode? Yeah, that was in Albany, or was it beer? Beer or milk? It was.
He did beer. Kurt Angle did the milk.
Copy that. So it was the beer.
It was the beer.
Yeah, that was in Albany.
That's
came out and
awesome.
Sprayed everybody with beer in Albany.
Hell yeah, I love that.
Totally. I want to talk career mode because I know you're jamming with those guys, man.
Yeah.
And like I've been talking about, they're coming on the podcast.
13th, right?
Yeah, soon. It's next week, huh?
Yeah.
I don't even know.
They told me about it too. They said bring it up.
But I know you're an honorary member of Career Mode, and I love like the whole music scene. What's going on right now? Like it's cool. It's popping. There's the other night, Nail Creek was popping, and they did the thing at Sickenburger a couple weeks back, or a couple months back. That was awesome, and
super cool.
Like it's starting to pick up, man. I love what Career Mode's doing. So what do you like? What's your role with those guys?
I've just been friends with Gary, the singer, now for ever. And I've kind of just gotten to know like Rob and Kevin and all them. And they've just been super dope to me. And Sam made the joke. Well, I think Rob was like, yo, you should play a song with us. And that was at the point where I sold all my music stuff like 7 years ago. I got home from a tour in Europe filling in for a band. And I just sold all my stuff. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't care.
Quit. Lost interest.
Sold it all, yeah. Just being in bands and like I was almost to the point of being a full-time touring band, and we were playing really dope fests and stuff like that. And I was like, we could do this. We could really just be a real band, and then it just didn't pan out. And I was just so, I was in the middle of like writing a full length and everything like that. And I was just so like disassociated from that. I was just like, I don't even want to do it anymore. And then I like maybe a few months ago, I was like, you know, I kind of want to just like mess around and like write some music maybe. And Sam was like, really? Like you do? She was shocked because for all the time I was like, I don't. People were like, oh, do you still play music? I'm like, no. Do you have any interest? I'm like, no.
So for 7 years, you didn't even pick up guitar.
No, I did. I played bass for my friend. He has this band called The World We Knew, or had this band called The World We Knew, and he did like 10-year anniversary shows in Long Island, and they sold out Amityville Music Hall 2 nights in a row.
Wow.
And I filled in for bass for them for that, and that was like the first time I picked up an instrument and played an instrument. And that felt nice. It was cool because it wasn't like I had no pressure. I just went there. I went up there and like I obviously practiced before I went down there and learned all the songs. Then I stayed down there for the week. We practiced during the week, then played the shows, and that was cool because it was just like with a dude who I met through playing in a band, and eventually got to play music with him, which was really cool. That was pre-pandemic, so I think it was 2019, maybe 18. I don't know, but it was bass. It wasn't guitar. So I did buy a bass for that, but I just still didn't have a guitar. And then Rob kept making the jokes like, yo, you should play a song with us. And I'm like, I don't know. And then that Nail Creek show came up and he's like, yo, okay, you're going to play a song with us. I'm like, okay, whatever. And then Sam and I bought a guitar for me and started playing again, which has been cool, trying to, get the rust off and stuff like that. Cause it's been, like I said, it's been like 6 years since I've actually played guitar. And so I played that one song with at Nail Creek. And then they're like, oh, hey, Gary, so you want to play like 3 songs with us at Bag Square? And I'm like, why not? I guess sure, whatever, I'll play 3 songs. So mostly just like they wanted me to play a few songs, and I did, and it was cool to like be on a stage and play music live. It's been a while, like I said, so it's just been cool to kind of get back in the swing of things. And I've been kind of just messing around, learning a bunch of old stuff I used to be able to play that I can't play as good as I used to because I'm still trying to get my chops up, but it's cool. The stuff I can play with them is pretty easy. That's not a knock to them, but it's just easy stuff.
How hard is it for you to shake off the rust?
It's been I probably don't play as much as I want to just because life, but it's like my brain works faster than my hands are right now.
Right.
That's mostly what it's been. I'm like, I should be able to play this. Like because I used to end up, because the winding up in the band Ghost Ship happened because they needed a fill in for guitar, and then eventually I just joined. And I'm very good if like you play something in front of me, I could probably play it right back right after. And that was like the main thing that most people, and that's why I filled in for this band Lionheart in Europe, because they saw me play with Ghost Ship and they're like, we want you to come play for us sometime. And then I did. I played Europe with them for a month, and I did a couple fests with them stateside, one in Canada and one in Pennsylvania and stuff like that. But that was like the big thing. So it's like it's all there. It's just kind of still coming together. So it hasn't been that bad. Like I played a Newfound Glory song with them, which is relatively easy if you play any instruments. It's fun. It's a well-written song, but it's pretty easy. So doing that kind of stuff was a good kind of segue to get into more stuff I want to play. Or even write. Like the stuff I write is probably going to sound more like Killswitch Engage and like stuff like that than like Newfound Glory. But I love Newfound Glory, and it's been fun jamming that kind of stuff with them. So yeah, Bag Square, it's September 17th. Bagstoberfest is what they're calling it. They're playing for like fucking 3 hours or something insane. Gary showed me they have like 2 different set lists because they're doing 2 sets. It's insane. I can't even imagine playing that long. Even at Sickenburger, they played forever. And I'm like, how long is your guys' set, man?
Right.
And then Rob does a DJ set after. I know it's like kind of an all-day thing. Tickets are like $40 pre-sale, which if you go to like Bagstoberfest, if you search on Facebook, you can find the event and the tickets are on there and everything. But it enters you in a bunch of stuff. Like you get a drink and you can enter all these contests. and everything like that. If you're not drinking, there's like a DD ticket for $20. I think they're like 45 day of show, so I would suggest getting them early to save a few bucks. And just come watch me play a few songs with these dudes. Watch these dudes play emo music for hours, and then Rob play probably more emo music for hours after that.
And there's also an obstacle course.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's like an inflatable obstacle course.
Yeah.
They're doing like a brewing competition, and there's a ton of stuff going on. I will give them credit for that. It seems like it's gonna be a fun day. I probably won't be there all day. I'll probably be there more at night, but it should be cool. And it's fun playing with these guys, and like what they're doing, and like what Handsome Bob is doing, and Pepper on the Salad and stuff like that. All kind of different, but all kind of the same. And they're doing some cool stuff, and it's cool to see people like come out to shows and have fun and be excited about it. Because I've seen scenes thrive and die and go through the motions of being the hottest thing to being nothing to being the hottest
decades
thing.
Of that, brother.
Yeah, I saw it happen in Watertown. I saw it happen in Syracuse. I guess I'm kind of seeing it happen here. Atlas and Ghost Ship used to play in Utica quite frequently in like the early 2010s, and we played some really dope shows, but those kind of came and went too. It's it's a big cycle with everything, but it's cool to see people come to these shows and be so stoked on them and have so much fun. That's what's been really cool, because I've never really done like cover band kind of stuff, but like these guys and Handsome Bob are doing the thing and killing it, and created this dope community. Because the first time I saw both of them was they did a show at the Stanley, maybe. In the front of it, they did like an emo night, and I was like, "Ooh, a live emo night? That sounds pretty sick." And we went, and it was super fun. That was before Gary was in the band, actually. But speaking of Justin Parker, he's singing with them at the Back Square show too.
He's all over the place.
Yeah, that dude is literally. Every time I go somewhere, he just ends up showing up, and I'm like, "Yo, what's up, dude?" He's like, "I didn't know you'd be here." I'm like, "I didn't know you'd be here." But yeah, it's cool because he even hit me up. He's like, "Oh, are you doing some songs with them at Back Square?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh, we could share a stage together." I'm like, "Hell yeah."
Do you think playing with career mode right now will inspire you to start up your own thing?
Maybe. I may have been talking to certain people about certain things.
Yeah.
But I'm still trying to, like I said, get to a place where I know I should be playing wise. Mm-hmm. And I have been messing around with some riffs and stuff, so we'll see where that goes and what happens. We'll see.
You gotta feel good though to be playing again, though, right?
Yeah, it feels a lot better than I thought it would. I thought I wouldn't care.
Do you think the music business is what burnt you out on playing?
I think that replaced me playing for a while.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it burnt me out. It kind of just replaced it. Because I was already burnt out way before I got into it.
What burnt you out from playing?
It was just being in a band and it falling apart. Like, it was my life. It was like literally my life. I was like ready to quit my job. I had a, steady design job. I was like a manager at a sign shop and everything like that. And I was like, I'll quit my job tomorrow to tour. I don't care. Like, I'm down. I want to do this. Like, I had so much invested into it, and most of the other people just didn't have the same investment, which is fine. It just didn't work out, and I fell out of love with it because I felt like it burned me. It was like a really bad breakup. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It was very much like that, and I think being involved in the music industry kind of replaced that feeling, because I kind of saw people do the same things that I wanted to do, and that was enough for me. That was like fine, and I did so much cool stuff. Like, I toured Europe in a bus, which was sick. I played a fest with Korn and Blink-182, which is sick. Like, I never thought I would ever do that in my life. People are like, "Why don't you play in a band?" And I'm like, I did some cool shit. Like, what do I have to do? Do I want to like sit in a sweaty van with 5 other dudes and tour the country to no one, or play grinder shows? Like, no, I don't. Like, like people, and they're like, I guess I can see that, but now I'm at the point where it's like, if I write some stuff and I put it out, and maybe I play a show, maybe.
Bro, it's good you learned that at such a young age, though. Think about how many guys are still on the grind right now at, approaching 40 or over 40 and still on the grind right now thinking they want to make it. And, it's good that you learned it and you reinvented yourself. It's awesome, man.
Yeah. Sometimes it works out for those people, though.
Sometimes. You're right. It does. Look at Dio. Dio didn't sign a record deal till he was like 36, 37 years old. And now, he's dead now, of course, but
worked out well for him.
Upstate New York legend, of course. Yeah. And it did. It worked out well really good for him, man. What do you think your next motivation or plan of action would be? Besides the podcast, you got the podcast, you do a little bit of the music. What else?
And that's it. I've just been kind of trying to grow the podcast more. It got picked up by the Adobe Radio Network, which is cool. It's like
awesome.
an internet radio station. So
yeah. Congrats, man. That's cool.
Thank you. That's kind of opened the world to like all these PR agents and things like that, which has been really cool. And it allows me. I have like a song of the week where I play a song every week. Which is cool. I've been trying to help like smaller bands get featured on it, but sometimes it's just the guest song that they're obviously promoting a new album stuff, which that stuff is cool too. Like even today I was like, because it premieres on Monday at 7 p.m. on Adobe Radio, which you can stream just right on adobe.com, or they have an app you can stream it from. It's super, super easy to do. It's there every Monday at 7 Eastern, or it's just on every podcasting platform right after it airs. Like however long the episode is, I just have it scheduled to launch right after. So the next day is when I really start promoting the episode as it being on podcasting platforms and everything like that. But today, like I was posting about the new episode and the song of the week and stuff, and some guy tweeted back at me. He was like, "Oh, I'm a fan of this band now because of the song of the week," and I'm like, "That's exactly what I want. Is to people to find these new bands, and like I have a Spotify playlist I add all the bands to, and just any song I like, I just add to it, and that's been like a really cool tool to work with these PR companies and add to that, and as far as get these guests and stuff like that, and it's been super dope. Adobe's super awesome. They've done nothing but like empower the show. They're like, we want the show for you. We don't want to change anything, blah blah. And it's given me a bigger like platform to have this stuff, which is cool. So really just trying to finally monetize the podcast, which is like a weird thing to even talk about, and I don't know if that's like taboo to say or something, but working on some stuff that hopefully will pan out, about getting some sponsorships, and because if I can make like real money and add that to the fact of my design stuff, and like that's the dream. Yeah. Like if I could get paid talking about pop culture with the bands that I love, like yeah, that's my main goal in that aspect. But it's really just, other than that, and because where I'm at design wise, it's awesome and it just keeps being awesome. So I'm gonna stay the course with that and just keep trying to keep my head down and work my ass off and stay where I am, and hopefully grow in where I'm in with those kind of things, and just keep playing guitar and see where it goes. Maybe, I mean, I wouldn't hold my breath of when anything I could say like, oh, this thing is going to come out in like a year. Like I have no idea. I'm kind of taking it step by step and seeing how it evolves rather than trying to force myself into anything. I want it to feel natural and I want it to feel right, because I was so hesitant on playing music in general. So the fact that I'm even doing it at all is a kind of a big step for me. So I'm kind of just taking that slow and seeing where it goes, pretty much.
Let's fucking go, Sean. Let's fucking go, bro. Let the universe happen, right?
Yeah.
Let it all take place. I love it, man. Spotify list. Where do I find that?
So you just search Metalcore Nerds pull list.
Okay, I'm going to follow that.
Or you can just you can go right to the website metalcorenerds.com. There's a Spotify playlist tab. You can just click on it there too. And there's actually a contact channel. If there's any bands listening and they want to submit some music, you can submit your music there, and I'll check it out. And if I like it, I'll put it on. If not, then I'm sorry.
Give me a couple new bands that are blowing your head off right now. A couple bands I need to check out.
If you're into like metalcore stuff, I would say there's this band, Foreign Hands. That's super sick. They just brought a new single out.
Foreign, like foreign country, or foreign?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Foreign, like foreign country hands.
Gotcha.
Super sick. Very early 2000s vibes. Pretty much if you're a band that sounds like a metalcore band from the early 2000s, you have my number. There's this band Dying Wish. Same thing. They're on tour with Devil Wears Prada right now. What are their new bands? The guest I just had on, he's in this band No Trigger. They're not really small. They're playing Riot Fest, so they're not like a small band. But they're like if you like NoFX, you would like them. They're very NoFX sounding, like the punk kind of early pop punk vibes. Band is super super fun and kind of ridiculous, kind of like NoFX. They're really cool. They just bought a new album. They're super dope. The new Devil Wears Prada album's coming out soon, which is actually really good. There's this band, The Gloom in the Corner. They're from Australia. And I've heard their new album that comes out in October, and it's sick. So check out that.
Is it Gloom in the Corner?
The Gloom in the Corner, I think is what they're called.
I have to check them out.
They just signed to Sharp Tone, and it's like a big concept story album. And it's awesome. I think I'm gonna have them on the podcast in October too, which I'm looking forward to. But.
Awesome. We have a guest. See how he just makes his way in here?
That makes sense. That's typical.
No, I love knowing what's new out there, and
yeah,
so I'm gonna definitely follow that Spotify.
That's what's been cool about this PR list too, is I learn about bands that I probably would not know about, which has been really, or even like learning about bands that I've known about putting out new music, and that's been super cool. I've been lucky to be able to check out albums before they come out, which is sick, so I can review them for the podcast. And that's another thing too with the podcast and stuff is I've been lucky enough to see some shows early, which has been really cool. That's like a humble sick brag.
Yeah,
is that I get to review shows, which has been cool. Which is another goal. I'm trying to get into like movie screeners and stuff like that. I haven't gotten there yet, but I've gotten some really cool shows. So hoping that continues to grow.
Yeah, it will, man. It definitely will. Awesome, bro. One thing I knew for a fact that this is going to be a great conversation, and now it definitely was. And I'm so glad
awesome.
you came in and take the time with me, man. And if you do get something going, and if you got like a new band out there, please come out here and promote it here on the podcast. I tell all the musicians this is what it's for. I mean, Monday we do the local Music Monday show, which has been really popular, and like rest of the week I'll do whatever. I don't care. I'll just do whatever. But no, please come, and there's more to talk about. And
yeah,
I love it, man. Thank you for taking the time. One more time, plug all your stuff and how people could listen to your podcast and the upcoming show that you got going on with Career Mode and all that.
Yeah, so I'll be playing a few songs with the dudes in Career Mode out of their like 200 songs they're playing that night. I think that's probably an accurate number of what they're playing. September 17th, Bag Square is called Bagstoberfest. Pick up tickets in advance. I think the show is 7 to 10 of what they're actually playing. I think it's going on all day. So just search Bagstoberfest on Facebook. You see the event with all the details and where you can buy tickets for there. As far as the podcasts, Metalcore Nerds, you can find it live. It's not really live. I pre-record and edit it, but it premieres live on the radio on Adobe Howl. You can just go to adobe.com or download the Adobe app on any app store that you have and listen to it there. Or if you can't catch it live, you can see any podcast, just search Metalcore Nerds so you can find it, or just go to metalcorenerds.com. We got merch there. We have all our links there to follow us on social media, everything like that. I'm very active on Twitter, so if you want to follow me on Twitter and Instagram, it's just at Metalcore Nerds there. That's pretty much it.
You're doing it, man. Keep shining, brother.
Thank
I love
you,
what you're doing, man. Keep it up. And like I said, come back anytime, please.
Oh, anytime you want me, I'll come.
For sure. Shout out to Upgrade Brain Formula. Check this stuff out. If you want to wake up your brain receptors, this is the stuff to do it. Do it first thing in the morning. I'm telling you, do a little shot of it quick first thing in the morning. It's not like a 5-hour energy. It doesn't give you the meth shakes, as I like to call it. It doesn't, because there's like no caffeine in it whatsoever. It's all green tea extract and sativia and a bunch of other things that I can't pronounce. But this stuff, it really, really works. Go to freemanformula.com. Use promo code Disruption. Get yourself a 15% discount. I'm telling you, I do not promote products that I do not use, and I use this all the time, and it wakes me up, and it helps me throughout my day. So definitely check out Upgrade Brain Formula by Freeman Formula. EJA Moving Services. When you're ready to move and relocate, hit up Eddie and his staff, ejamoving.com or 315-335-0516. Thank you to Utica Coffee, Saranac Brewery, my attorney, Dave Longaretta. And, of course, we can't forget about Ballsy, ballwash.com. Use promo code members only for a 15% discount. Get yourself some nut rub. Sean, nut rub's the best. It changed my life, dude. It did.
Is this like the new Manscaped?
Yeah, well, it's not like Manscaped, because Manscaped's more of like you shave and stuff. This is a balm.
They have
anti-friction.
Yeah, they have
all
that too.
Stuff. Do they?
Yeah. I mean, I listen to a ton of podcasts, and everyone has a Manscaped, and so I've heard the ad read like 20,000 times. They got some ball stuff too. Yeah.
Ball wash. Ball wash is great too. It's got the charcoal activator in it. You scrub it up, and the thing is, you use the ball wash, and then after you towel off, then you throw on the nut rub, and you could not shower for like a week, and the nut rub still is going to smell good in your groin area.
I mean,
it's amazing.
That sounds dope.
It's perfect for festivals.
Oh, yeah.
It really is. And I'm trying to get those guys for next summer to give me a bunch of samples, because I work a lot of festivals, to give them out and hopefully.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of these
booth, man.
Yeah, set up a booth. A lot of these wooks out there need to take care of the groin area.
They need to take a little bit more than that.
Right, exactly. Sean Mott, you're the man, dude. Thank you so much for coming in. Everybody have a good day. Tomorrow, I'm going to come back tomorrow, too. My world traveling buddy, Mike Mamrosh, is going to be in the house, and he's got so many things to talk about. He pretty much painted all of Old Forge. If you go into those little shops and you see it's kind of like the same theme throughout a lot of those shops downtown Old Forge, Mike Mamrosh did that. So he's got a lot of stories to tell, and it should be an interesting podcast tomorrow around 4 p.m. You guys have yourself a good day. Later.